Any real world examples of anybody who's told a great story and that's doing a good job that they're going to benefit from that from an SEO perspective?
Yeah, I think when you're trying to build a story, you have to figure out the intent and the differentiation between interest and an intent. So a good example is prior to this agency, I worked at an agency for Toyota National, working on Prius. And we were trying to figure out the intent behind MPG or even hybrid technology. The hybrid technology is the interest. What was the intent behind that? And I think there's a lot of confusion when you're trying to pull data and trying to assume intent behind an interest. So you do a lot of A/B copy testing. But again, I think in terms of the storytelling, you really have to differentiate the interest versus the intent. So that you can't just build a lot of content around MPG, saying that you have the best MPG in the world, the highest MPG, do all these competitor content videos. You have to figure out what the intent is. And what we did from our research is that the intent behind MPG is not necessarily the fuel economy, but it's actually a larger story around what MPG provides to the consumer. So once you actually build out and have a good hypothesis or assumption around the intent, then you can build out a storyline. So if this is the first trigger, that the first question that you have around MPG, how can you build a second question or answer a third question, fourth question? So I believe that's an example of it.
One of the websites that are part of the Demand Media, it was acquired by Demand Media probably 2 years ago. It's called Society6.com. And it's really interesting because it started as solving a need for a particular vertical. It was basically artists that wanted to market whatever they're creating on their art. And so the business came out as an idea from other artists to try to help them. And I think that it's a good example for that in terms of like first looking at the need and the actual story that you're telling to the people that you're going to sell the product, because what is behind of that is a story that is saying like, we're selling you something, but we're not only selling you stuff to you, we're actually helping people behind the things that you're selling. And one of the results on that is basically, well, first of all, it was created by 3 guys and it was acquired by a serious amount of money 3 years later. But also, right now, after a couple of years, we've been working with SEO really heavily. It's a company that it has an upside of like probably it's going to be in the $200 million in a couple of years or something like that. And it's something that it's taking a long run. But when you have the fundamentals of the story like those guys have of helping a community, when helping a certain amount of people that is actually creating art or chairs or whatever you want to do, that is going to actually trigger a lot of the opportunity that you have, not only in SEO, because it's not, the great product is not about the SEO only, it's about whatever you want to do with every channel that you want to sell for. And I think that is a really opportunity with that.
I think just to touch on that, that's a good point of the community, both the people that are purchasing the products and the people that are creating the products. Because for SEO, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much you control. You control a lot of it, everything that's on your site, right? All your content, all your technical pieces, all your interlinking, and you can encourage things off your site. But the offsite piece is really the most important piece at the end of the day, right? Like you have to have people talking about it. You have to have people sharing about it. You have to have people wanting to come to your site. Right? And that goes into building your brand, into building your story. If you don't have a story to tell, if you're not building a brand, you're not going to get the stuff happening off your site. And any rankings that you do win in the short term, they're not going to sustain for long term unless you really build that story, build that brand around it. So I think those are all really good points.
Is there a mic that's not working? It's this one, great. Is everybody else working? Good.
PJ, I know you had mentioned that you had a handful of examples, I think, when you had answered some of these questions, and I know you worked with a lot of clients, so I definitely want to give you a chance to throw any examples that you might have out there of any of telling stories and how that impacts the business.
Sure. So I think one interesting example that comes to mind is we're working with a new form of payment processing via a company called Fat Merchant, and essentially rather than pay fees for each transaction like a typical merchant processor, they charge a monthly subscription fee, and then all the transaction fees are covered. So it's a slightly different model. But to gain business, we were competing against Intuit and the banks and the PayPals and the Squares, which obviously have a tremendous higher budget for search than this small startup did. So we really focused on being a voice of like the small business owner, talking about seeing where small business owners are asking questions. So going on Reddit, we use a service called mention.co, and you can get keyword, you can type in keywords, and anytime somebody asks a question or mentions a keyword, it sends you a notification. So we were actually taking a different approach and seeing where people were asking questions about small business, especially related to small business finance, on forums like Quora or Reddit, and then actually going in and on behalf of the brand responding and giving an honest response, and then on behalf of the brand, and then just doing a lot of that, responding and interacting with people and telling stories in real time. That actually led to a lot of a new way of getting clients. It's not really related to SEO, but it's definitely a different way of telling story and connecting with people on a more one-to-one basis.